Hello everyone and welcome back to Age of Nagash, which is of course a channel dedicated to Age of Sigmar. And in this video we're going back to the Soulblight Gravelords, part of my army series for them, and essentially this video exists because I forgot to talk about the Coven Throne and the Bloodseeker Palanquin in my Soulblight Vampire video, reviewing all those units. There were 17 of them, so I can't remember if I reviewed 17, forgot these two extra ones, or I only reviewed the 15, but nevertheless, let's get these two done before we move on to the Zombie Dragon Terrorgeist and Nagash, and that will complete the series. So, if you enjoy the video, make sure you like, subscribe, smash the bell button, do all those things. That's amazing. You can support the channel by Patreon and become a member. Now let's get on to the unit review. So, to start, we're going to look at the Bloodseeker Palanquin because it is cheaper in points to the Coven Throne, and it is also the newer one out of the two in terms of basically Legion of Nagash came out and Games Workshop said build your Coven Throne in a different way, and boom, a new war scroll, which, you know, is quite fun. So a little bit of lore from atop. The macabre conveyance is known as a Bloodseeker Palanquin. The sanguine archers refine the art of blood blending. In battle, they violently choose worthy champions using their ichor in crimson concoctions to invigorate their vampiric kin. Right, so that's a little bit of lore. Going on to see this thing on the tabletop, it's going to cost you 270 points. So cheaper in points than when it first came out in its battle tome. It is going to be a behemoth and a leader as well for its, unit type war scrolls. And bear in mind on that is a single model obviously as well. And going on to its war scroll now, it is going to have a description of a Bloodseeker Palanquin as a single model ridden by a sanguine arch, armed with a bloodletting blade. And then it goes on to talk about the mount. So this model's spectral will host attacks with their Wail of the Damned and spectral claws and blades. And then going on to fly, just saying this model can fly, simple as. Then going on to its will stats. So it starts with a 14-inch movement that will get worse when it takes damage, refer to the damage table. It's got a 4+ save, bravery 10 and 12 wounds. So pretty fast, quite nice, pretty chunky with the 12 wounds as well. And then the 4-up save means it's a little bit fragile, but chuck out all that defense on it or a Mystic Shield to get that +1 if you'd like to. Going on to the weapons, we have the missile weapon, which is 1, which is Wail of the Damned. Now it's a range of starts of 12, but again will get worse. Now I will just jump down to its ability, because that's how this missile weapon works. Now in the War Scroll, so Wail of the Damned, do not use the attack sequence for an attack made with the Wail of the Damned. Instead, roll a dice for each enemy unit within range of this model. Wail of the Damned on a 4+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So I really like this. This is, I think, very similar, if not exactly the same as when I reviewed the Mortis engine on how that works. Because again, same model, you've got the Tomb Banshees essentially just circling the throne, creating this wave of terror, the Wail of the Damned, obviously, and I think it's just a great way to do mortal wounds to the enemy. The Bloodseeker Palanquin is obviously more expensive than the Mortis engine, so you can't do what I said when I was talking about the Mortis engine, where you could spam the Mortis engine as much as possible just to generate loads of mortal wound potential from a range. But obviously this would be like more of a one-off thing, so it's not always reliable, but you probably have 2 enemy units in range of this thing on the average, and one of them is going to suffer D3 mortal wounds, so quite nice. Nothing to really bank on with this model, but it's another way for you to do mortal wounds to the enemy in this army, and this army has a lot of ways to do mortal wounds to the enemy, but I wouldn't take this model just for this alone, obviously. Going on to its melee weapons, we have the Bloodletting Blade, which is 1-inch range, 4 attacks, freeze and freeze, -1 rend, D3 damage. Of course, she's a vampire, so it's the same as the rest of them. Going on to the special claws, we have a 1-inch range, we have 12 attacks, obviously, because quite a few ghosts. 5 to hit, 4 to wound, no render 1 damage, but I will just jump straight down now to the ability saying that if you roll a 6 to hit with this, it does mortal wound to the enemy instead of normal damage. So that's what we're used to with the special claws, and it's always it's a funny one really, because you always get to this attack usually at the end of all your other attacks with this model, or if it's a Mortarch, etc. And then you'll find that you go, oh, it's not really that good of an attack or something. You're not banking on it, essentially. But then suddenly you'll just roll it and you'll do, 4 more wounds to the enemy. And it's like, boom, well, that's killed that little hero or something that I couldn't finish off. So it's definitely something to never forget and never underestimate. But a lot of the time you will be disappointed. But going on to the abilities, really, we have now. And we've covered 2 of them, so the only one we haven't covered is a fine vintage. So if an enemy hero is slain within 9 inches of this model, add 1 to the attack characteristics of the melee weapons used by friendly vampire units wholly within 12 inches of this model until your next hero phase. So this is really, really good ability. Obviously, if you get it off, that's great. You can have so many vampire units in your army, Soulblight Gravelords. We've talked about that. You can go Castellet with this in it if you get this buff as well. So many attacks you could do. Insane, right? Damage you could do to the enemy. But the only problem is, obviously, you have to be in the vicinity of 9 inches of an enemy hero when it dies. And to be honest, I wouldn't say this is particularly hard to get off. Obviously, depending on the enemy army you're fighting. If it's nothing but, I don't know, Frostlords and Stonehorns, you're going to struggle a little bit, obviously. But most armies have like 5 wound heroes dotted around or something. And if you can have this model in the right place, which you want to have this model near those sort of small enemy heroes anyway, because you want to be doing that chip damage and mortal wounds to them, or just enemy units in general, I think that means that there's a reason why this guy will generally be nearer to the enemy heroes anyway when you get this off, and you've got more than enough things in your army to kill enemy heroes. You know, vampires, monsters, monstrous units, Vargheists, Blood Knights, etc. All the things we've already covered in this series. I don't think it's particularly hard to get off. When I first read this rule, I thought it was going to be something really annoying along the lines of this model has to be the one that kills the enemy hero, and it's like, right, okay, well, that's not really going to happen in 10 games. Maybe, you know, 1 in 50 or something, this will kill that enemy hero, but it wouldn't be a standard thing. So how it is written, I think it's achievable. So I think it is definitely worth trying out, because if you can get this off, it's obviously going to help out all your vampire units as it states, which means that I would only really put a Bloodseeker Palanquin in my army, I reckon, if it was very heavy on the vampires. If you're going loads on grave guards, skeletons, zombies, corpse carts, you know, that sort of thing, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But before I fully conclude, let's go on to the magic. So this model is a wizard. It can attempt to cast 1 spell in your hero phase and attempt to unbind 1 spell in the enemy hero phase. It knows the Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield and Blood Siphon spells. So the Blood Siphon has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick 1 enemy hero within 12 inches of the caster and is visible to them. On a 1 to 2, the target suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 3 to 4, the target suffers D3 mortal wounds. And on a 5 to 6, the target suffers D6 mortal wounds. I think this spell is really nice. 12-inch range is a bit short, but to have that, obviously, you got to get the spell off. The enemy's going to not unbind you, etc. But on a casting value of 6, as long as the enemy doesn't really get involved too much, on the average, you should get this, right? So once you've got this spell off, which you should do on the average, if the enemy can't unbind you, which they probably will, but ignoring all that fact, you've got a third of the chance of doing D6 mortal wounds to the enemy. But then again, you could do that, and you could just roll 1, and that's 1 mortal wound to the enemy, and then you just thought, why did I bother? But it's not a bad spell, because a lot of these sort of spells or abilities you'll see are along the lines of, on a 1 to 2, you do nothing. On a 3 to 5, you do D3 mortal wounds, and on a 6, you do D6 mortal wounds. So this is a bit better than all those other spells and abilities you see that are exactly like this. Is that enough to make me take it in an army if I don't really have many other vampire units? No. Like I say, take this if you've got quite a few vampire units in your army. And then the last thing for me to say about the Bloodseeker Palanquin is keyword. So it's Death, Vampire, Malignant, Soulblight Gravelords, Hero, Wizard and Bloodseeker Palanquin. So let's put it in direct competition with its biggest competitor, which is going to be the Coven Throne. Now, the Coven Throne is going to be 20 points more. So this is why I like reviewing them in this sort of way. Review the cheaper one, and then when we look at the more expensive one, by only 20 points, but more expensive, we can see what are we actually getting for this extra 20 points, because this is exactly the same kit you'll be building out of. And again, obviously you can build the Mortis engine out of this, but we've covered that in the Death Mages video. And the Mortis engine is generally a pretty good shout, to be honest with you, as an all-rounder for your Soulblight Gravelords. You know, it helps with your casting, it does mortal wounds to the enemy, and it's just cheaper in points. So go check out my Death Mages video if you would like to find out my thoughts on that. But going on to the Coven Throne, so starting with a little bit of lore. From atop the morbid Coven Thrones, a vampire lady and her acolytes mark the most intriguing foes. Those chosen are beguiled, even as they are torn asunder, their blood drained into a mystical font and used to scry entangled paths to victory. So, talking about the Coven Throne on the table now, it's going to cost you, like I said, 290 points. Again, it's going to have the same unit rolls as the Bloodseeker Palanquin, which means it's a leader and it's behemoth, and of course it's a single model as well. Going on to its description on its war scroll, a Coven Throne is a single model ridden by a vampire lady armed with a predatory bite and stilettos. So it goes on to talk about its mount, which just says special host, blah blah blah, is its mount, attacks, etc. Go on to talk about companions. So it says This model is accompanied by handmaidens who attack with their needle-sharp bladed articles. For all purposes, they are treated in the same manner as a mount, and again, this model can fly. Its will stats are exactly the same: 14-inch movement, which gets worse, refer to damage table, 4+ save, 10 bravery, 12 wounds. So my thoughts are the same about it as the Bloodseeker Palanquin. Then going on to where things are different though, are the melee weapons. So this actually has 4 different types. So the first one is a predatory bite. So this is 1-inch range, 1 attack, freeze and freeze, no rend and D3 damage depending on how hungry she was when she bit him, or her, presumably, or it, whatever she's biting. Going on to the next thing we've got is the Stiletto. So this is 1-inch range, 3 attacks, freeze and freeze, -1, 1 damage. The Needle Shark Podiards, don't know how you pronounce it. Right, it starts with 8 attacks, freeze and freeze, no rend and 1 damage, and then the Spectral Claws and Blades are the same as Bloodseeker Palanquin, which is 12 attacks, 5s and 4s, no rend, 1 damage, but it's mortal wounds and 6s to hit instead of normal damage. So its attacks aren't amazing. To be honest, there's not really a lot it's going to punch through, especially in 3rd edition where lots of things have very good saves. So yeah, it fights, basically. Then going on to his abilities, the first one we have the Hunger, and I just realised that the Bloodseeker Palanquin did not have the Hunger, which means that for some reason that vampire doesn't eat. I don't know. It is indeed a shame it didn't have it. But anyway, going on, the Hunger. So at the end of the combat phase, if any enemy models were slain by wounds inflicted by this model's attacks, in that phase you can heal up to D3 wounds allocated to this model. So it's the same as all the vampires have, generally, bar the Bloodseeker Palanquin, for some reason, like we mentioned. But yeah, it's just a good way to keep healing up, and it's generally a very good ability for the vampires to have. Then going on to the next one, which is Frightful Touch, which we've already covered, and the Scrying Pool. So once per turn, you can re-roll 1 hit roll or 1 wound roll for an attack made by this model, or 1 save roll for an attack that targeted this model. Right, well this thing hasn't really brought anything to the fight yet, or anything to your army, or synergy, or anything to your army, right? It doesn't really do anything, doesn't bring anything to the team. So I don't know why you really were bothered about keeping this thing alive, or I don't know, re-rolling one of those hit rolls that do no render 1 damage. Yay. Right, going on to the next thing we have is magic. So hopefully it can make up for it. And it can cast 1 spell and unbind 1 spell in the enemy hero phase. Going on to the Shudder, which is its spell. It has a cast of value 6. It successfully casts, pick 1 enemy unit within 12 inches of the caster and roll 3d6. If the roll is greater than the unit's bravery characteristic, this model cannot be picked to be the target of any attacks made, spells cast, or abilities used by that unit until your next hero phase. So essentially, the reason why this has a purpose, or why people use it, I believe, is along the lines of you bog down the enemy in combat, and then you put this spell on them, and then it means that the enemy has to only be able to fight you because you're in combat with them, but they can't fight you because of this spell. So then that's how that works. And then again, presumably it works with shooting as well. So it's just a little bit not wowing me yet. But let's go on to its command ability, shall we? So the Tactical Insight. So you can use this command ability at the start of your hero phase. If you do so, pick 1 friendly Soulblight Gravelords unit wholly within 12 inches of this model until your next hero phase. Add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made by that unit, and add 1 to save rolls for attacks that target that unit. The same unit can benefit from this command ability more than once per phase. So everything we've read on this War Scroll is mediocre until we got to this point, right? So it's kind of like, this is boring, this is bad, doesn't really do anything, blah, blah, blah. And again, I'm talking from a competitive point of view. You know, if you love the model, it's not a really bad model in the game. It's just, there's nothing really wowing me if I'm looking at it from a competitive point of view. So if you love to run it, that's absolutely fine. You think it's cool, take it with you. But what I was trying to say is, everything's mediocre until we get to the command ability, which is really, really good. Because adding 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls is huge, and adding 1 to that save roll is massive, right? Let's take Blood Knights, for example. They have a 3-up save. Now it's 2-up with this, and now they're hitting on 2s, wounded on 2s. It's really, really quite good. The only thing I would say, though, and I would say why I wouldn't take this, is because if I had the points, I would happily pay, I think it's less than 100 points to have Manfred von Carstein in my army, because if I have Manfred the Mortarch of Knight in the army, that means I can use his command ability, which is an aura, to get +1 to hit and wound, which is huge. And then I know it's not the +1 save, but then I'll just stick all out defense on and a Mystic Shield. And I know that you can't spam either of those 2 things, but you can probably put it on enough stuff. Anyway, probably 2 things is fine. Like this command ability, I would only take this model for the command ability if I didn't have enough points for Manfred von Carstein, or I really wanted to be able to add one to hit and wound rolls in a place where I knew Manfred wouldn't be with his aura ability, or I thought he was going to die really easily or something like that. I really wanted to spam +1 to save. Other than that, I wouldn't take it because the Coven Throne, it's not cheap. It's 290 points. It's not that far away, like I say, from Manfred, who does a better job at it, in my opinion, or Neferata, or any other big, scary monsters, behemoths in the army. Whereas you could take quite easily a Mortis engine, same amount of wounds, same save. Again, it does a different roll, but it spams mortal wounds out of the enemy. I think it's just got more of a use. It pluses to your casting as an example. And the Bloodseeker Palanquin, I think it's better than the Coven Throne because it's a little bit cheaper and it can increase attacks. And I know you might go, yes, but for the extra 20 points I get this, which is command ability. Again, is really good, like I said. Yes, but Manfred does his command ability pretty much, and I think he's got a better version of it. And I'm always pretty much going to be taking Manfred in my army list for Soulblight Gravelords because I think he's just so damn good. And yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about the Coven Throne. It's not that I think it's really bad. I think it just doesn't really fill a role in the army. And then when it does, which is its command ability, there's another model, Manfred, that has a better one, in my opinion. Again, if you disagree with me, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't really got a lot of experience taking Coven Thrones and stuff, and if you have, and you just go, oh no, there's a really good way to do it, you want to take me your list for this reason, please put it down in the comments, because then everyone who's watching this video learns, and also I learn from your experience as well. So don't hesitate to put down your thoughts in the comments at all. But with that, guys, I'm just going to read the keywords we've got for the Coven Throne, which is Death, Vampire, Malignant, Soulblight Gravelords, Hero, Wizard, and Coven Throne. So, not a bad model, but just a bit expensive for what it does. And like I say, the only thing what I like is the command trait. There's another model that does it better. In summary, I've repeated that quite a few times, but it's just my thoughts on it. And with that, it's going to be the end of this video. So again, a very short video compared to my usual ones. Like I think the Soulblight Gravelord Vampire unit video, which was like the last video I did or something like that. That was probably, I don't know, 5 times linked to this one, but there were so many units to go through. And to be honest, this video is a bit shorter. It means that I can film this in between like my shifts and stuff, and I can record and edit it hopefully in that gap between my shifts, so I get out to you rather than waiting yet another week or however long it's going to take for me to get my videos out. Very busy at the moment, but with that, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. If you have any other questions, of course, put it down in the comments of this video and I'll try and help you best I can. And if you did enjoy this video, please do me a massive favour, and it's free. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button if you haven't already, and smash that bell notification. Absolutely smash the shit out of that bell, because what that means is if you massively support the channel, it's absolutely free to do. But by liking the video, it shows to YouTube that people like this video, and hopefully you recommend it to people who don't know what this channel is. And then by subscribing to the channel, again, that's how the channel grows. And by pressing the bell notification, it means that when I do put up videos, which I'm going to try and do more regularly going forward, as soon as I have more time, basically, guys, you'll be notified as soon as I put it up, especially if you enjoy my series, such as the Soulblight Gravelord videos. You don't want to miss it when I put them up, especially because when I do put them up, I put them up as a premiere as well, so you can join in with the chats. And then also, if you would like to support the channel a step further, I have got a YouTube membership and a Patreon. There's a link to my Patreon in the description down below, and then you click the join button to become a member on the channel on YouTube. Now, where I usually say that the channel needs like support through Patreon and YouTube membership to keep the channel going, that's still absolutely true. But basically what I decided to do, if you've seen my latest post on the channel, was I'm going to be giving all the money that the channel gets from YouTube/Patreon to help charities out in Ukraine at the moment. I don't really want to go into a long depth conversation about obviously everything that's going on at the moment out there and why I'm decided to do this, but you just turn on the news, you see what's going on, and it's absolutely horrible. And if there's anything that I can do slightly to try and help the situation over there, or just trying to help refugees or something like that by just putting some money their way, and I know it's not loads of money, but you know, it's, I don't know, on average probably about £80-90 a month. If I can give it to them rather than giving it to me to spend on, you know, things that just aren't really important in life compared to what people like them are going through, or the Ukrainian government trying to keep on to freedom and trying to defend basically something that we all take for granted. So if you'd like to support the channel, any money you give to the channel for the last month and going forward for the foreseeable future until things develop will be going straight towards charities and to try and help out the Ukrainian people and country. to fight against tyranny, basically. But I wasn't going to go into any of this at the end of the video, but, you know, here we are. Sometimes you're going to just talk the truth a little bit. But again, guys, if you want to support directly to those charities and everything else, do that. Don't go through me. If you'd like to, and if you're a bit too sure who should I donate, or you're not really too sure on the links, I have put the links up in the last post, like I was talking about, on my channel, where you can find links to support different charities and organisations. But if you're still not too sure, just donate the money directly to the Red Cross, and don't you worry, it will go to help people who really do need it. And on that note, I do want to say a massive thank you to my patrons and YouTube members who, like I say, goes directly supporting the channel, but in this case, you know, going to generally hopefully make a difference in the world. And that is going to be my biggest supporter. Is going to be my Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, who is Filq. He's been supporting me for such a long time at such a high tier. It never goes unnoticed, mate. Thank you so much for keeping it up. And as well, everyone I'm reading out here, thank you for supporting me where I haven't been able to make so many videos as of late. It really does show to me that you guys are really committed to just keeping the channel going, really, and it makes me smile, essentially. But anyway, going on with my Morgasts, we've got Bleed Red and Gullswept Dandy. Guys, thank you so much, because of that tier, it's still a lot of support you're giving to the channel. And then my vampires, who do give quite a lot as well, is going to be Ben C, Rouse321, David A, Dragoonity, Ronni H, Darren L, SpareBear, Christopher H, Northdrop, Nathan F, Andrew G, Tom W, Wiggy Whooty, and Nathan S. Guys, thank you all so much for giving a huge amount of support to the channel. And then my Necromancers, who are Jacq.l, WolfNick, AW77, Tom M, Michal W, Cranky Wombat, Christopher C, Christopher F, Steve T, James S, Thomas B, Patrick F, JJ, R Christopher, Sception, Shaun S, Gordon W, and Val. Guys, thank you all so much for keeping the channel going. Like I was saying, when I haven't been able to make so many videos, but obviously going forward, see where things go anyway. Thank you so much for basically supporting people who really, really need it. It's going to make a big difference, and thank you so much for that. And yeah, guys, so with that, obviously everything in the world's a bit crazy at the moment. Hope everyone's staying safe, everyone's keeping well. If you can afford to, hope everyone's having a bit of fun, a little bit in the hobby. Keep up to date with what's going on in the Age of Nagash community by joining the Discord. There's a link to the Discord in the description of this video. Join the Discord, loads of hobby, loads of talk of everything going on there. It's just generally a great place to hang out. So if you'd like to do that, join that. And then also, if you know someone you think would enjoy this video, make sure you share it with them. And with that all aside, guys, I'm just really glad that you came, checked out this video today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Remember, until next time, to stay safe, stay hygienic, make sure you wear a mask, and wash your hands. Of course, that's still very important. And until next time, guys, remember that Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.